Let's take it back to the year 2005. YouTube was launched, completely changing the way we entertain ourselves. The world was introduced to the first season of The Office and the absurdity that is Michael Scott, and MySpace was the preferred social networking site that everyone was on. Meanwhile, on the hardwood, the 2004-2005 NBA season was in the midst of a significant transition. As the Shaq and Kobe dynasty crumbled before our eyes the year prior, new teams would emerge to define the decade, and new faces would emerge to cement their claim as the league's best. All the while, tensions were boiling all across the league, and it would reach an unforgettable or forgettable climax. Buckle up as we deep dive into this drama-filled season in the NBA in the year 2005, a year in review. The 2004 offseason was an impactful one that would change the course of league history. After years of internal feuding between their two biggest stars, the Los Angeles Lakers elected to choose Kobe and traded away Shaq to the Miami Heat. It was an unceremonious split between the two superstars. Kobe was accused of shipping Shaq out of LA, and the amount of vitriol, hate, disdain, and pure animosity that Shaq had for Kobe was off the charts. And boy did he let the media know. Story after story, quote after quote, it was as if Shaq wanted the whole world to hate Kobe with him. That's why all eyes were on Christmas Day 2004 in Los Angeles, probably the most anticipated Christmas Day game in NBA history. The visiting Miami Heat taking on Los Angeles, Shaq's return to Los Angeles, Kobe and Shaq's first matchup since the trade. Will Kobe and Shaq dap it up before the game? Will they go right at each other during the game? The hype was unreal, and the game's most tense moment was not during the game. It was right before tip-off when Shaq and Kobe reached each other center court, and the greeting was cold to say the least. No eye contact, no acknowledgement. Almost like two strangers passing each other up on the street as if they hadn't spent the past 8 years together winning titles and going to war together. It was cold-blooded and said all that needed to be said about their love or lack thereof towards one another. The game was a close one. Kobe missed a game-winning three-pointer which would have been absolutely iconic. Unfortunately for LA fans, the Lakers would lose that game and many more games that season. The 2005 season is one of the most forgettable years in Kobe's career, the first without Shaq, and he isn't able to advance his team to the playoffs. While the Shaq and Kobe beef was creating for some pretty compelling television, there was another rivalry that could not be ignored. The previous year's Eastern Conference Finals was a bloodbath between the Detroit Pistons and the Indiana Pacers. Detroit would win the series and the championship altogether, but Indiana felt they let last year slip away and that their time was now. And in an early season matchup against the championship Pistons, they wanted to prove it to themselves, to the Pistons, and to the entire league. And boy did they. It was an absolute beatdown. Indiana led by 15 points with under a minute to go, and the game was pretty much over until the unthinkable happened, the most infamous moment in American sports history.
The problem is, if Wallace is ejected, I'm not sure. He'd have to walk past the Pacer bench to go. Now Artest has jumped over the scorer's table and is trying to get down to the bench. Artest is in the stands. Oh, this is awful. Fans are getting involved. Steven Jackson's in the fans.
This actually happened. Players would go into the stands and fight fans. Fans would come onto the court and fight players. It was a truly unbelievable scene that left the entire world in shock, and the repercussions would be cataclysmic. Commissioner David Stern came down on the players with an iron fist, unlike the league had ever seen. Ron Artest would be suspended for the entire season. Steven Jackson would be suspended for 30 games. Jermaine O'Neal 15 games, and Ben Wallace 6. A host of additional suspensions were doled out, but this wasn't the worst of it. The negative reputation and publicity that these players, namely Ron Artest, Steven Jackson, and Jermaine O'Neal would face later into their careers would prove to be irreparable. Don't get me wrong, their actions were inexcusable, but it was the cup that came flying from the stands that triggered all of this. It was the fans who fought with these players also. It was the fans who made their way onto the court to confront these players. Both fans and players were at fault, but it was exclusively the players who were the ones facing the consequences, and it was the players who would be labeled as thugs, punks, and overpaid, spoiled brats. This can be debated, but in my opinion, Jermaine O'Neal's career suffered the most. Keep in mind, before this brawl, he was a top 5 power forward, firmly in the same category and breadth as Tim Duncan, Kevin Garnett, and Dirk Nowitzki, and he was the undisputed leader of the Indiana Pacers, who were the favorites to win it all that year. his reputation morphed into that of a violent and out-of-control thug, and it kept him from becoming one of the future faces of the league and having a Hall of Fame career. Without this brawl, his career could have mirrored that of someone like a Kevin Garnett, a strong two-way force, probably at least one championship, a defining power forward from the 2000s, and unquestionably a first ballot Hall of Famer. Unfortunately for Jermaine, his career would sunset before it even had a chance to truly take off because of that one fateful night in Detroit. Meanwhile, over in the Western Conference, teams were jockeying for position as the Lakers' stranglehold on the conference looked all but over. And one of those teams was the Houston Rockets, who upgraded their roster in a big way. The success of the Shaq and Kobe Lakers years prior was the inspiration here, as Houston traded for all-star guard Tracy McGrady to form one half of their own guard and center dynamic duo between him and third-year center Yao Ming. Although the results between T-Mac and Yao failed to mirror those of Kobe and Shaq, there is one iconic moment from Houston this year that is seared in the minds of all NBA fans. On December 9th, 2004, T-Mac and the Rockets visited their crosstown rivals, the San Antonio Spurs, in a regular season matchup. With 35 seconds to go, Houston was down 8 and San Antonio looked to be on their way to another victory. And that's when T-Mac took over. T-Mac would go on an offensive barrage by himself, dropping 3 straight three-pointers and a 4-point play. He just would not let his team lose that game. But the most incredible moment was the final play.
Kevin Brown lost it. Here comes McGrady. No timeouts remaining. McGrady for the win. Yeah! 1.7 to go. San Antonio with no timeout. Here's Parker, and the Rockets steal a game.
To have the presence of mind down 2 to just go for the win with a 3 is insanity. It was unbelievable in the moment and to this day. In my opinion, along with all of T-Mac's other accomplishments, this moment cements him as a top 75 player of all time. There aren't many players in NBA history who could score like T-Mac, and he proved it to all of us once again on this night. Staying in the Western Conference, over in Phoenix, the Suns were also making some serious noise in a way that no one had ever seen. In a league that was filled with giants, exclusively rewarding only those teams that prioritize size, defense, and grit. Think San Antonio with big man Tim Duncan. Think Detroit with their size and defense. Think Indiana with their tenacity and grit. One team decided to flip the script on all of that. Visionary head coach Mike D'Antoni took a look at his Phoenix Suns team and decided they were going to run. And not just run up and down the court, but run teams out of the gym. They reached a level of offensive pace that the league had never seen. They led the league in points per game by a wide margin. They led the league in three-pointers made by a wide margin. And this style of play would famously be dubbed 7 seconds or less. The old model of throwing the ball down low to a Shaq or a Tim Duncan was over and done with. They went up and down the court in a chaotic yet ironically orderly fashion as well. This style of play catapulted the Suns to the league's best record, and no one was able to figure them out. And at the head of this revolutionary style of play was point guard Steve Nash. He orchestrated everything, pushing the ball up and down the court, assisting his teammates brilliantly. Along with Magic Johnson, he is probably the best passer of the basketball that the game has ever seen. But beyond his passing, his most underrated attribute was his shooting. In addition to being a phenomenal playmaker, his shooting was what truly separated him. He was a deadly marksman, showcasing a level of efficiency from the outside that the league has never seen. He was awarded League MVP in 2005, not just for all of the passing and efficiency, but for truly changing the way the game of basketball is played today. But as great as Phoenix was, one thing remained crystal clear. Whoever came out of the Western Conference would have to go through the San Antonio Spurs. Tim Duncan was still as dominant and as fundamental and as no-nonsense as he had been all these years, and his two running mates, point guard Tony Parker and shooting guard Manu Ginobili, were finally pitching in a meaningful way. Manu especially. This season was Manu's breakout year. He was named to his first All-Star team this year, and although his averages of 16 points and 4 assists per game don't jump out at you, his play on the court was not just effective, but incredibly exciting. He was an amazing playmaker and had an unparalleled knack for getting to the rim. During this season, he popularized the famous Euro step. Going downhill, he would fake his defenders with incredible footwork to get to the basket, and this move is still a staple in today's game. You will be hard-pressed to not see one of the superior players, both past and present, break out the Euro step in one form or another. Immediately coming to mind is James Harden, Russell Westbrook, and Dwyane Wade. And it was Manu who brought this to the NBA first. As the 2005 playoffs got underway, the Spurs blazed through the first 3 rounds to get to the NBA Finals. In the East, it was not that easy. The defending champion Detroit Pistons were looking to go back-to-back, but the new-look Miami Heat, led by a highly motivated Shaquille O'Neal, who was not only looking to get his 4th championship, but his first without Kobe, had other plans. Fortunately for Shaq, his new running mate was second-year guard Dwyane Wade, who was enjoying a breakout year of his own. Selected to his first All-Star team this year and already cementing himself as one of the top 2 guards in the league, the young Wade made some serious noise in these playoffs and in particular in these Eastern Conference Finals. This included a 40-point performance in Game 2 and a 36-point performance immediately after in Game 3, putting on full display his unique combination of speed, athleticism, and fearlessness. The Heat would go up 2-1, but unfortunately for Shaq and the Miami Heat, Wade suffered injuries in Game 5 that limited him for the remainder of the series. Despite these injuries, this series went to its 7-game climax, and Detroit would emerge victorious, punching their ticket to their 2nd straight NBA Finals to face the San Antonio Spurs. And this NBA Finals series was a bloodbath. The hard-nosed, grind-you-down Detroit defense against the polished, no-nonsense, fundamental style of play from San Antonio. The first 4 games saw both San Antonio and Detroit defend home court, setting up for a pivotal Game 5 in Detroit. And Game 5 was a seesaw battle to say the least. Tim Duncan was masterful on both sides of the ball, while Chauncey Billups seemed to hit every clutch jumper Detroit needed. But the unsung hero of this game was none other than Robert Horry, a pivotal cog in the Lakers' three-peat dynasty that terrorized these same San Antonio Spurs. With the Spurs only up by 1 as the 4th quarter got underway, Robert Horry would score a total of 21 points in the 4th quarter and overtime. And with San Antonio down by 2 with 9 seconds left in overtime, Robert Horry would do it again.
Now they have Prince on Ginobili, Hunter on Parker. Here's Ginobili. Oh, to Horry for 3. Oh, unbelievable. This guy is off the chart. And that time they put the ball right into the corner. And then as they trap down, they go away from Robert Horry.
After this historic finals performance from Horry in Game 5, this series would reach its 7-game climax as well, and San Antonio would be crowned champions in the end. With this San Antonio championship, Tim Duncan firmly cemented himself as the greatest power forward of all time, and no one has come close to stealing his throne. In addition, this would become San Antonio's 3rd championship in 7 years, and with all the talk of the Lakers' stranglehold on the new millennium, San Antonio had become a legitimate challenger to the Lakers' dynasty, and quite possibly even more dominant now that the Shaq and Kobe Lakers were no more. As the supreme dynasty of the 2000s, what do you think? Which dynasty was more dominant, the Shaq-Kobe Lakers or the Duncan-led Spurs?